Thank you, President Ward. Thank you, Board Chair Fuelling, and thank you to the whole Red Deer College community for this honor. I'm truly honored to be here, and I always enjoy coming back to Red Deer. First, congratulations to the Red Deer College class of 2018. You should be very proud of this day and all of your achievements. And I hope you take some time to reflect on what you've done and enjoy your time. No matter what happens to you in life, through all your successes and failures, and I guarantee a large dollop of both, remember, no one can ever take this achievement from you. Congratulations also to the Red Deer College and Red Deer College community on your journey to degree granting status. I know this is richly deserved and a long time coming. We were talking about this back in 1980, whatever it was that I was here, a long time ago. So it has been a long time. First, a little bit about me. As you heard, I grew up on a dairy farm just south of town. My family came to the Red Deer River Valley in 1884. We were one of the first settlers in the community. We just recently, this February, had our 7th generation born on the farm. My brother still farms out in the Horn Hill district. You know, when you drive to Calgary and you drive past the grain bins that used to have the political slogans on it, that's part of our farm. So I'm sure you've driven past it 1,000 times. You could say that this is my hood. I went to high school at River Glen High. How many here went to River Glen High? How many have heard of River Glen High? There's one way out there. I'm not surprised because it no longer exists. We were actually the first year at transition from a junior high to a high school. We were the first grade 10s, the first grade 11s, and the first grade 12s. It was a fantastic experience, and I had a wonderful set of classmates. But my graduating class consisted of about 45 people. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in going to either University of Calgary or University of Alberta. I was lucky I came to Red Deer College. I had a little bit of a middling interest in economics. When I came to Red Deer College, I only had the opportunity to take one course in economics prior to that, and it was by correspondence, literally hard mail, mail it away in the mailbox, none of this online thing. It was a correspondence course. I was in the Bachelor of Commerce Transfer program at Red Deer College. I had the opportunity to take 4 economics courses, 3 of them from Dean Anderson, and I was inspired. Economics to me just seemed to make sense, and it seemed like a very reasonable way to think about how people behave and how we can explain policy issues that are important to most of us. Most of us have to eat, and in Red Deer and Central Alberta generally, agriculture is important. And so after Red Deer College, I chose the only commerce program I could find where I could actually major in economics. That was UBC in Vancouver. From there, I did well enough to get into Stanford University, where I took a master's and a PhD. So let's get this straight. That makes me an economist. I get to do lots of interesting research on food and agriculture and things like that. But I am an economist, and you know what they say about economists. Economists are just accountants without personalities. You know, honestly, I freely admit that I searched the web for good jokes about economists before coming here. I couldn't find any. No jokes about economists, we don't joke. We have a bad rap for talking about depressing things, talking about budget deficits and interest rates and unemployment and all sorts of things that people don't really like to talk about. I didn't think any of those things were going to be appropriate for a convocation address, so I'm going to talk about some more uplifting things. So my story today is about young people, specifically young, well-educated people like yourselves, that are changing the narrative about society and the economy more general, and solving some of the most intractable problems that we face in the world today. I'm going to talk about 2 examples that are from my research that illustrate this. The first one is going to be about how people make decisions about the future, meaning how we invest in things, in our personal finances, how we take care of our health for the future, how we choose education, and more generally, as a society, how we choose to invest in things like bridges, roads, pipelines, things like that. So both of these topics are things that I've conducted some, second, I'm going to talk about the power of markets. That's my second story. The power of markets, and more specifically, markets and technology and the people that bring them together. Okay? Those are both topics I've done some research on, and I think I can tell something about your futures by getting into them. And my first story, just a bit of background before I talk about how people think about the future. 1989, I'm at Stanford University. I'm taking a course from Ken Arrow. He's famous to economists. You guys probably haven't heard of him. He's one of the first Nobel Prize winners in economics. I'd seen him walking around campus, and he looked like a pretty old guy. Turns out he was only 68. Seemed very old at the time. I was 23. Doesn't seem so old now. But I thought he was going to die soon, so I better take his class. He taught a class in economic history. It was fascinating. The guy's a genius. But I lost track of Ken. 20 years later, I saw him at the Western Economics Association meeting in Kyoto, Japan. And he was talking about a topic that I thought was pretty interesting. His topic of his speech was called Intergenerational Equity. Sounds like a boring, geeky economics topic, and a lot of it is. But the concept is really simple. Basically, when we make decisions about things that last for several generations into the future, how much weight do we place on the well-being of future generations, our kids and our kids' kids? Standard thinking at the time was that, well, we place less weight on them because, you know, a dollar in the future doesn't have the same value that it does today. His idea was totally different. He said that we give equal weight because they're our kids and our kids' kids. He had lots of arguments to support that. I became very interested in that idea. So when I got back to ASU, I contacted a colleague of mine at Seattle University who does research into public finance, and we decided to do some experiments on that topic to find out how people in the economy actually made those decisions, real people like you and me. So we did an experiment. Not like biology, we don't cut people up to find out how they make decisions. We don't wire up their heads. What we do is we give them money and we pose them a bunch of real-world situations, and we measure the types of decisions that they make. So we gave them a bunch of scenarios, whether to make short-term decisions, long-term decisions, and we gathered our data. So what did we find? Not surprisingly, we found that older, less educated people tended to want to take the money and run, right? They wanted to buy things for themselves in the near term, things that are more what we call present-oriented. On the other hand, it was the younger, well-educated people who saw the value of investing for the future along a lot of different different avenues, meaning how they took care of their health, their personal finance, and things in the public like whether they'd invest in bridges and such. We were very encouraged by these results. My second story is about garbage, not just any garbage, but about food garbage, food waste. Food waste is a big deal in the United States where I teach. It's a big deal in Canada too, but because the United States is bigger, I guess it's that much of a bigger problem. Last estimates were that the amount of food thrown away in the United States every year is about $165 billion worth. That amounts to about 40% of all the food that we produce every year. Becomes more real if you think that 80% of the fresh water that we use goes to irrigating crops. So we're essentially throwing away 25% of all of our precious fresh water into a landfill. It also becomes more important when we realize that the UN projects the world to have 9 billion people in it by 2050, 7 billion people now. We're not going to be able to feed those people unless we do a better job of taking care of the food that we produce now. So the question is then, why do people waste food? Well, there's lots of theories out there, and some of them are pretty obvious. It's hard to plan. You go to the store, maybe you impulse buy, you thought you'd eat it, you didn't, it goes off, you throw it away. Lots of people don't understand best before dates. Maybe you got picky kids like mine that were here this morning. You think they're gonna eat it, they don't, you throw it away. Our thought, we tried to look for something a little bit more fundamental than that. So we said that, well, the reason why people waste food is that they don't have a reason not to. There's no value to food waste. There's no price on it. There's no market for it. So we started doing some research on it, and we found that we weren't the first people to the table. There's a lot of smart people out there that are thinking about secondary markets for food as being a good idea. We started working with some startup companies out of San Francisco who were developing markets, combining technology to allow farmers to sell surplus produce over the web by using apps on their phone. Let me give you an example. One company we're working with is called Imperfect Produce. If you're a farmer, and let's say you farm in the Central Valley of California, you grow kiwis, and your kiwi has 2 heads on it. No supermarket's going to buy it, so you have to find something to do with it. You can just click on your Imperfect Produce app, they'll come out with their truck, they'll pick up your kiwi, they'll put it in a box with a bunch of other stuff that they picked up that's maybe too big or too small, delivered around to all their subscribers. Problem solved, right? But the thing is about these businesses were not necessarily what they were doing, which is a really cool thing, but it's more the people that were running these businesses. The striking thing about them is that every one of them could probably be my kids. They're fresh out of college, incredibly smart, driven, passionate about saving the world. They knew technology, and they didn't take no for an answer. Most of these companies are trying to raise venture capital from financial companies in San Francisco, and they're told that their ideas are stupid 10 times a day. They still keep going. So that was fairly motivating. It was in fact one of the most motivating experiences I think I've had in my academic career. So what is the moral to all this story then? Well, the idea is that you guys are millennials or Generation Z or whatever you want to call yourselves are going to be driving the bus in the future. I'm not just talking about the business people in our food waste startups. For every trade, every certificate, every transfer degree, whatever you graduate from at Red Deer College, you are going to be contributing to the knowledge economy, and Red Deer College has given you the tools to do that. So I think you're well armed to be able to perform in the future. So what advice would emerge from this? I guess always be thinking about the future. Don't be scared to take risks. Be entrepreneurial, and don't let anybody tell you that your ideas are stupid. Okay, again, congratulations and good luck.